First 10 years of my career, I was a machine. In fact, when I first started telemarketing, before I became a mortgage professional, I would do 300 calls a day. There wasn't a day went by I didn't get somebody on the phone. It never happened. If I didn't get someone on the phone, I just kept calling.
Welcome to Solo to CEO. We're sitting here with Tamir Mori. And Tamir, tell me what you do.
I own a real estate company called Cornerstone Real Estate Services. Services residential real estate in the New York metro area. Long Island, Queens, Manhattan. Brooklyn.
Awesome. Amazing. So what is it about your business that separates it from other real estate businesses?
I think the number one thing that we do at Cornerstone is we operate as a team. Even though everybody's individual, we all share and help each other with what we do. We're a part of a unity that helps each other grow. In real estate, every man for themselves. That's real estate. But what separates my company is integrity and commitment to the business succeeding for all of us. So nobody sinks while another person swims in my company. If you want to put the hard work in and you want to get things done, we're gonna make it happen for you. So that's the big success.
Awesome. And how many employees roughly do you have working?
About 20.
Amazing. So, and you didn't just suddenly wake up one morning and you had 20 employees, right?
Correct.
Okay, so let's hear a little bit about your journey. How
did
it
17.
start?
No, I'm kidding. So the journey started with, any journey starts with an idea. The idea was to build a business and to be flexible with my time. I was starting a family, and I wanted to leave the corporate world where you have to be under the fluorescence for 12 hours a day and you don't make your schedule. Your schedule is what it is, and your family has to work around your schedule. So I said, I'm going to be building a family. I would like, if possible, to create a business that I can create both schedules myself so I can make it work. And that was the idea. I wanted to be there for my family and my kids when they were growing up, and I didn't really see that as a mortgage professional managing an office for a bank and, last person.
How many years back was this?
So 2002 is when I started in the mortgage business, and about 2012 was when I started the real estate company.
So the mortgage business is something that you're still doing, or that's something that you put away when you started the real estate company?
I stopped because I didn't want to commingle the two businesses. There's specific laws about handling finance for realtors, and then there's specific laws between, being in bed with the realtors on the mortgage side. So I said, let me make a clean break so that there's no doubt that the two businesses are separate. And then I started referring all my mortgage business to multiple people. So I didn't take it to myself when I started the real estate company.
So you turned it into like a mortgage agency where you're just referring out
The thing is, I had so many people I worked with in the mortgage business that it wasn't like, just go to this guy. I just would send it to multiple people, which you're supposed to do in real estate anyways, at least two people. So there's no bias. And in return, they were happily giving me referrals back for real estate. So it worked. And as I grew, my company started receiving the referrals instead of me.
Awesome. So what happened next? So you started this. Let's go to, was it 2012 you said?
2012.
2012. Okay. You started this real estate company. How did it start?
Let me just backtrack 2 years before that. It's a very important part for business. 2012, I started the company, but 2010 was when all the hard work started. So before I started the company, the idea of the company had to be there, and I had to come up with the name and the logo and all the building. And I'm mentioning this because it's very important for business people to understand that when your company starts and you're making money, that's great, but there is a huge time period that can elapse while you're building it if you don't plan it right, that you're not making money, and you need to plan for that. Now, if you're really smart and you got a good service business, you can get on the ground and start making money much, much quicker. I was working and I was starting the business while I was transitioning the end of my employment, and I had authorization from the bank that I was working on that I could work on it while I was handling business. But make no mistake, it's 18 months to 2 years to really get the base in place from your idea, from a dot to licensing and all the things that require in whatever business you're in. So always make sure you have the time and reserves for that. So it's something I want to mention. In 2012, when I started the business, it was like any other business. It was new. I remember the first time I took people out to see houses. It was very different than being on the phone working on their finances. In fact, I had too much to talk about because there wasn't as much. I don't need your W-2s or your tax returns or any of this information I had to apply. I just need to open a door. So it seemed very easy. Oh, wow, this is really easy. I open the door, I make money. But it wasn't so easy because you open the door, and sometimes they like what's inside, and sometimes they don't. And that's where the work begins. So I had to start in 2012 understanding the mind of the consumer and how to help them on their journey, because you're helping them buy a house or sell a house. It's not your house. So you have to understand the mind of what they're looking for and how to get them from point A to point B.
What was your first step? Right, because you're opening doors for people. Who are these people? How'd you get to them?
So my first step was segueing off of the business that I had in the mortgage business. I called all of my previous customers that I obtained mortgages for, and I let them know that I was in the real estate business now. And that if they needed advice, if they needed to ask me advice for anything, they can always call me. But I'm no longer facilitating mortgages, and I'd be happy to purchase, sell, or do anything with real estate. If they could refer me other people, I'd be happy to do that. I explained to them, how much I know about real estate, and they obviously, most of my clients that have been with me for a long time, don't worry, Tamir, we understand that you figured it out by now because you understand the mortgage side. So I used the base that I had from another business to boost my my automatic client structure. I wanted to get a base of clients. You have to have accounts. So I didn't want to just lob and try to get deals off the bat. I wanted to be able to have some kind of base. So I went off my previous business and I basically sacrificed it and saying, hey, I'm no longer doing this. It was a sacrificial lamb, and in return, I received new business. And then they would ask me, of course, well, who are we going to go with our mortgage business? Don't worry, I'll refer you to someone that's a professional. I have that covered. So you'll never lose a beat. But now you have 2 beats covered. So that's how I started.
Were you able to monetize those referrals?
I did. I had the referrals go to the company afterwards. Once I became more of the broker for the company and less the main production of sales. You start the company, it's just you and maybe 2 other people. You're the top producer. You're the guy, because it's your business. You're working day and night. But once I started hiring bigger people and I had to feed them, I had to make sure that they had leads and accounts other than their own, and I had to give them a reason to stay with the company. I had to build their brand and their online marketing and all their stuff. I realized that I had to put my time into my people. So got to push the greed button aside for a second. Instead of taking every deal for myself, I had to start giving my own referrals to people that worked for me as they were experienced enough to handle them. So that's how I started. And with that, I earned loyalty. Eventually, that wasn't enough to feed 20 people. I grew over time. So then I started pursuing the already in place systems of lead purchasing, such as Zillow, Redfin, or any of these other partner arrangements where you pay them or you give them a piece of the closing legally. So that's how I started.
How did your first hire go? How long after you started, and where were you?
That's a great question. It's a really great question because, you go after anybody when you're first starting. You just want to have people you don't know. You don't know who's going to be a producer, who's not, till you learn the experience of what's it going to be. Same thing with any service business. You don't know that the manager you hire is going to be the best manager. Is he going to be there for 10 years or 6 months? You don't know that the person handling the people walking in through the door or handling your customers in the service business is going to have the etiquette that's going to present the company properly and present themselves properly.
You don't know if the new hire is going to take you a step forward or 3 steps backwards.
Right. So I think in the beginning I was very careful who I brought in. And like I said, we're a family. So I built it where everybody understands it's the brand, it's the reputation. When people hear that you're from this company, I want one day for them to say, oh, Cornerstone? Oh, they're very professional. They do things right. They do things great. You can get the broker on the phone at any time. And my people always knew that they can come to me for anything. So I built the brand like that. I built the marketing like that. And I built the base of my employees like that. I gave them something to build from. And I taught them how I built my own referral sources. Second thing I did was, because we live in an e-society where everything's online, I taught them that they're, more importantly than how many people they talk to in a day, it's how they're represented online. Because you could throw one tweet, one text, one Facebook post, one anything online and reach more than you'll reach in any room now on your own. Unless, of course, you're Tony Robbins and every person you talk to is sold, right? So it's a work. It's work that needs to be done, especially for older people that don't really have the online profile like the young people. They didn't grow up building a profile at age 7, So that was the next step. The next step was making sure that their online presence was just as professional as how they present themselves one-on-one. And those 2 tenets, being able to give business to my people and build accounts for them and teach them how to present themselves properly in an e-society, were, I would say, the 2 roots for growth that I created in my company.
The first employment work out for you? Or you had to hire a few times before you got that gold?
So the first people that were experienced worked out for me every time. The non-experienced people that I had to train from scratch that just got their license, that were looking to me for support, I was able to support them with all the mentoring they needed, but I didn't have quite enough business to give them because they couldn't handle the best of the business. I didn't want them to ruin an account being new. They had to get the marbles out of their mouth, learn the business, understand what they're doing before I give them a level 2 customer that's been using us forever. So what I would do was I would handle point with the customers on a lot of the dynamics, and I would let them do the legwork, and they would learn as they grew. And I lost many people trying to learn as they grew in the beginning. Kind of like a customer might hire telemarketers in large scale versus actual salespeople, because telemarketers could be a dime a dozen, and they're just making phone calls, and you're just sifting through the ones that can hand the call over. So that's what I did. And slowly, with the experienced people, I was able to train more non-experienced people as I hired more experienced people, and they were able to mentor non-experienced people as well. So it's kind of like a pyramid growth. Not a pyramid scheme, but a pyramid growth where someone at the top would train someone at the bottom. I didn't do 5-to-1 ratios. I liked one-on-one ratios. So, you wanted to grow your business. You didn't want to do all the junk work, that requires. So I'd give you somebody, a rookie, and you would train him. You would help him with his customers, and he would do some of the junk work for you, and you'd give him a little bit of the pie for those deals. And together, you would be able to alleviate some of your burden to get more accounts, and they would get experience, and then they would learn the pattern accordingly. And I did that successfully until I had 5, 6, 7 experienced people that were able to mentor 5, 6, 7 non-experienced people. And not everybody mentored. That was the base for the business model.
That's really smart.
It works. You got to use the resources you have. So, my advice to people starting a business, forget about my business for a second, is you have to use the resources you have. I had resources of a previous business and a customer base. So I said, how can I segue that customer base to real estate and not just mortgages? Everybody gets a mortgage because they bought a piece of property. Eventually, they might sell that piece of property and then get another piece of property. I used that to generate business. And then as I understood how I was, handling the customers and what was required to maintain a customer and help them get through the process from point A to point B happily, because I think that the, home buying process should be happy. I think that any service business wants their people to be happy. Happiness spreads reputation, as well as disgruntledness spreads reputation. They say, bad marketing is better than no marketing. Well, sometimes that's true. But generally speaking, you want good marketing. But you want business more than you want anything. Because you can turn hearts and minds, but you can't just generate people out of nowhere. So if you have, 10 people that are on the fence with you and you're very good at what you do and you understand that you made a mistake and you can somehow compensate them for their mistake legally or help them along their journey or make them understand that you're going to give them the most, especially since you identified the mistake and you have no problem owning up to a mistake and fixing it and making it better, people appreciate that. Not everybody wants the killer in their corner that's going to get it right every time and pinpoint. Some people just want to have someone that they can work through whatever it is they're working through. Not all consumers also know what they want. A good business knows how to help them get to there, but it doesn't mean shoving something down their throats all the time. So service businesses require maintenance of the customer base. And some of that doesn't always translate immediately into a monetary position. Sometimes it takes time. There's metrics that come when you've put enough time into a business. You've done, 20 things the same way. Now you have a metric. 5 people respond good, you have a 25% positive response to that metric. And you could use that metric however you want. So when you're starting a business, you need to use the resources that you have, and then you need to measure your metrics and see what works and see what doesn't work in order to generate money. Whatever it is you're looking to generate, you need to understand what you want to get to and how you're going to get there. And that's how you do it.
So let's talk about the growth that you experienced. Was it all organic? Like you started with your client base and then sort of just word of mouth built it up, or did you do any active marketing?
So I'm a believer that any person should have 6 streams or more of revenue. What does that mean? It means you have 6 different specific angles that you look at, almost like 6 different businesses. Why? Because if you put your eggs into one basket, like you said, just the organic basket, what happens if that organic basket doesn't work that year? We have no business. You can't have no business. Plus, a good business is a business constantly growing, looking how to find new avenues to do business and how to grow. So when I started my business, yes, the first thing was the organic part of the business, right? Going after a current customer base. The next thing was the secondary organic business, was going after all the people that I never got in my original customer base. Maybe the thousands of leads that I pitched for mortgages that never got a mortgage. Well, they own homes, or they're looking to, or maybe they never got into a home because the mortgage didn't work out. So I went after that. That was cold calling, basically. That was a harder grind and something that I very much recommend to people starting out, because you shouldn't be afraid of anything in business. If you're stopping yourself from doing something, you're like, oh, that's beneath me or whatever, you're already making a mistake. So, but later, you need to assess your business based on what's going to create the most now. So now, as a professional, I'm not going to cold call, because I can call a customer of mine that knows 20 people and say, hey, do you know anybody looking to sell their buildings? And they might say, oh, yeah, my friend, David wants to sell his building. All right, could you give me his number? I'll give him a call. No
Curious question. If you had to drop a number right now of a guess of how many cold calls you've made in your career, what would that number be?
Well, let's see. I'll break it down in three categories. The first 10 years of my career, I can without any doubt say that I've done between 100 and 200 calls a day, 5 days a week, guaranteed. The first 10 years of my career, I was a machine. In fact, when I first started telemarketing, before I became a mortgage professional, I would do 300 calls a day. There wasn't a day went by I didn't get somebody on the phone. It never happened. If I didn't get someone on the phone, I just kept calling new people. Or I went to my boss at the time and said, hey, what am I doing wrong? How am I not getting, I just made 400 calls. I didn't get anybody on the phone. Am I calling the wrong data? So I think it's, you need to really hit it. Hard work wins, number one, every time. After that, I didn't need to make as many calls because I could hit it with less calls because I had more accounts. I could call a not so cold lead, a warm lead. I can call a lead from someone that was working with 6 months ago, because you build this over time. But when you start, you need to grind, and you need to grind until you literally have the option to choose. If you can't choose which customers you have, you don't have enough business. You have to reach the point where you have to choose between this one or that one, or find a way to manage both of them. If you are not doing that, then you have too much free time, and you need to be grinding. So you grind until the grind now is counterproductive, until your time value is now depreciating, because your time is worth more. For example, let's say opening a door for somebody and selling the actual house than looking for the person to sell the house to. Grinding is important, but you need to recognize at one point when the grind needs to stop and a different grind needs to happen. What's the purpose of a business? To make money, right? That's the purpose. So if you're getting really good at getting people on the phone and you have a talent for that, okay, wonderful. You've just created a metric for yourself. You know that after 100 calls, you're going to get 10 people on the phone. It's a beautiful thing. Now you need to focus on those 10 people and figure out, what do I need to do to get these people to use my product, right? To use my service. Then you need to become a professional in that metric. It's a different business. Making the phone call, opening, or doing marketing and getting people to respond to it, right? People do that all the time. They put flyers out there, good marketing, bad marketing. They just want your response. But once you call them back, then you're at level 2. Now you got to capture the business, right? So you can't just make calls all day, unless you want to build the business where you're making the calls and somebody else is taking them. That's fine too. So you need to utilize, like I said, utilize your strengths, understand what resources you have, and above all, don't shy away from hard work. I mean, the bottom line to starting a business is going to work hard. You're going to be up at night. Yeah, the end goal is to be able to be flexible and spend time with the family and do all that, but that doesn't come automatically. You have to create that. If your business is not generating money, then you're not putting in enough time in. Then you're not monitoring your metrics. Then you don't have 6 streams of revenue. You have 1 stream, and it's just not working right now.
What are the 6 streams?
It could be anything. For me,
Examples.
It was 6 different accounts that generated business in different ways. I have an account with a major bank in the States that gives us business. When they foreclose on people's houses, they give it to us to fix up and resell the houses. That's one account. It needs to be managed very different than somebody that's cold calling. You got to go out to the house. You got to fix things. You got to do. So they have service businesses, many of them have different kinds of business. For example, another source is leads. I buy any lead source that I think has great marketing online, and that'll put my name on the map online, or that'll work well generating business and keep my workers happy because they have something to work on, right, if they don't have their own business. So I dealt with all lead companies and many service businesses
What
have
do you mean by
multiple
lead
leads.
company, like lead generation?
Yeah, where you're not cold calling to get the business, but someone else is, and you're paying to buy the lead.
Oh, it's a lead generation company that charges you per lead.
Charges you per lead, or in the beginning, I partnered up with two companies that are very big that take a percentage of the lead at closing. They take a much higher percentage than it would cost you to pay for the lead, but there's no upfront overhead costs. So there are a lot of service businesses that have partner relationships like that, where you can start off when you don't have the capital, and you won't make as much per deal, but it's the same thing. So you said very smart earlier when I said I handed my business to my people. It was the same thing. I already had business. So am I going to pay someone else to give you business, or I can give you my business and just take a piece of it? So instead of you getting, let's say, 70% of the commission on closing a deal, since it's my deal, you might get 50, but I'm giving you the deal. Right? So that would be another stream. So I'd have my own personal business, right? That's one stream. I'd have, tons of previous clients and stuff that I can dip into a bucket and call anytime. That's another stream, right? When my first stream is slow, I go to the second stream and I start hitting it. I could have leads and advertising. That's another stream. I know I'm paying for that, so I got to be available, or I know I'm giving a higher percentage of the deal, so I can't let it take up my premium business, right? You have one deal you're going to make, $30,000 on, another deal you're going to make $10,000 on. Clearly, the $30,000 deal is worth 3 of these, but both of them are worth equally as much when you look at them as metrics inside their account. So you have to look at it both ways. You have to look at it from a revenue perspective, but you have to look at it from a volume perspective. Like, if you're only getting 1 out of 10 deals here, and you're getting 0 out of 10 here because this is where the money is and this is where less money is, well, that's not good either. If you're getting nothing here, you're not handling the business because you're saying, oh, there's more money here. That's where the streams come in.
But if that works for you,
if it works, then we wouldn't be having a conversation about building a business, would we? So yeah, anybody can find it, but it could fail. Okay, I'll give you an example. I had a rookie of mine that was very successful, followed every piece of advice I gave him from the beginning. Within 2 years, this guy was a top 3 producer in my company. Not as much experience as the guy with 10 years, but, where he would run into those problems, he could probably just call me and ask me the question. He doesn't need that extra 8 years of experience to overcome most of the obstacles because he's overcome them. He never built multiple streams of revenue. He didn't listen to me right away. He focused on one main stream and then another stream partially because I made him do it. I pushed him into it. I.e., let's fast forward right now. Real estate, interest rates are high, right? The business is not the same. His referral base is producing nothing for him right now because he's a rookie. He doesn't really have that big of a referral. He already talked to all his friends and his family, all his repeat customers. They have nothing for him. He made a lot of money. He was a top producer, but it's not about just making the most amount of money. I had a president of a bank that I worked for that used to say this, it's about making the most amount of money for the longest period of time. It's not about just now. You can be very short-sighted in business and look at the now, and then tomorrow have nothing. Right? So you have to plan for tomorrow. If you build 6 streams of revenue, 6 different avenues where you generate your business, whatever it is. Let's say you have a food business. You have your walk-in customers. You have your delivery, right? You have your repeat customers that reserve for events because you have an area in the place that you can farm out for events, right? You have specials in the morning, right, which you didn't have before. So you have a niche. So that's 4 avenues I just gave you on a food business. I'm not even in the food business, but if I was in the food business, I'd already start there, right? Maybe you have a product that everybody loves. They come, they're like, oh my gosh, the donuts at this place are amazing. And you say, you know what? Maybe I can market those donuts separately, door to door. I don't have to sell them just in my restaurant, right? They're obviously the most hot item that I have on my menu, right? So let's focus on that item. How are we going to package it and ship it to people? Or maybe we can sell it in bulk. Now it's a different avenue. You're not thinking about all the customers coming in to buy. Of course you are, but you're not when you're thinking about this product. You're thinking just about this product. How do I maximize this product? You ever notice in a restaurant they always have the specials? Why do they have the specials? What's so special about the specials? If the menu is great, why would you need special? Right? I'll tell you why. Because sometimes they have things that are left over that are going to go bad, and they need to find a way to creatively deliver that to you, right? So you compensate for that by finding something to either eliminate the spoilage, or you raise prices, or it's just part of the business model. We always lose 10% of everything we have, but this is what happens. I say that for every business. You need to find multiple avenues. If you're doing a business online, is your only platform YouTube? Are you also on Instagram? Are you also on Facebook? Are you also on, I don't know, one of these new platforms like Trump has or DeSantis goes on? Are you in those? Right? You may like them politically or not. It doesn't mean anything. It's a business, right? So like, where does Biden go? Where does Trump go? These are places that people go to in multitudes. And I bring politics up because it's sensitive for most people. And you need to understand that business doesn't have any of that. Anytime you bring politics into business, it destroys it immediately. You just need to understand where the people are and how to get to them, right? And how to make them come to you. So you need multiple avenues. If all you're going to do is do your business on YouTube,
You're gonna get me in trouble with all this politics.
Well, it's true. If all you're going to be is, I'm not saying what politics I'm on. I'm mentioning everything. If you're going to open up a YouTube channel, you want to be the best YouTube channel. You want to be like Mr. Beast, right? You want to give away cars and houses. He put in 12 to 15 hours a day for years before he made $1. If you ever watch his history, it's ridiculous what this guy did. And he just wanted to learn everything about the business. And when he did, he not only had the most amazing YouTube channel, but he segued to multiple areas. And does he have one stream? He has Beast Burgers. He's a YouTube guy that has his own hamburger. Why? Because he's smart. He recognized that he has a huge audience, and he could just sell this to his audience or sell that to the audience. And as altruistic as he may be, I'm not judging his character, he is an amazing business person. And he figured out multiple ways to divide. For example, when he gives a car away or something silly like that, you think he just goes into his pocket and takes the money out of his wallet? No. His business generates money. His YouTube video with millions and millions of views pays for that car already. He doesn't pay for it. You're watching the video of him giving the car away, and you're helping him pay for the car. It's that easy. And you could do that in your own business. In any service business, you could do that. Streams of revenue means understanding your business and having multiple avenues that you focus on separately so that in case one avenue fails, you have others to fall back on. Let's say your YouTube channel is not doing so well, but your Instagram is generating new customers for you every day because they love the pictures you're putting out. So streams of revenue are extremely important in a business, having multiple avenues. And sometimes those streams could also be salespeople working for you. I have one salesperson that works for me that he handles a specific account. I don't even look at him for any of his other business. I look at him for that account. The extra, $2,000, $3,000 he makes from the others, he's there for me for that account. So when I call him up, talk about the business, I'm focused on that account, not about anything else. When I call this guy who's taking leads, it's about that account. Because that guy is calling leads, and I need to know, is he getting the most out of it? So then I try it out with a different person. Is he getting the most out of it? I try it out with a different person. Is he getting the most out of it? After 6 months of testing, I realize 2 of them don't know what they're doing. I'm just going with this guy because I'm focusing on the stream. Not saying Cornerstone does all this money. McDonald's does all this money. This thing does all this. No. McDonald's fries are a very different product than all of McDonald's stuff, right? The dollar menu. Right? It caters to an audience that wants cheap food. Is it that much cheaper than the non-dollar menu? Not really. They give you smaller portions. But they're like, we want to cater to people that don't have money. Right? Dollar menu. Done. It's another stream. Makes people come into the business more. So you need to find different angles of the business that are going to generate people. Then you develop a reputation. You're in multiple places. And now when people say to you, well, what's your business? You don't say, well, it's the integrity of everybody working for me, and they work well. Nobody cares about that. Think anyone cares what I said earlier? They go, I have a family business. No. They want to see money. They want to see how you made money. In my business,
they want to see how you're going to make money for them.
Whatever. They want to see money. Yeah, they're not interested in your money. They want to be able to take what you do and do it themselves. Right, correct. My claim to fame isn't the fact that I have this family-oriented business. If none of the people with me got along with each other, my business would probably still do well. But I give my own business to my people. I'm a rainmaker. I understand my role. I understand where my talent lies. I understand what's best for me. and how I can generate the most for me and my company. I understand that I'm not the guy that needs to sit behind the desk all day long and just type stuff into a computer. That I actually lose money when I'm doing that. So you need to understand who you are in your business. Not everybody is a slick salesperson, and not everybody's a paper pusher. Everybody's different. So as a business owner, you need to understand where your strengths are and where your strengths are not. That's where you need to place people in.
And how do you do that?
You do that by identifying first, like I said, what your strengths are and what your strengths are not, and then looking to fill those gaps. I like to fill those gaps with family-oriented type people because I don't like to think twice and rehire. There are other philosophies that say just hire, have the same interview process, keep it consistent, and drop the fire the bottom 10% every year. You know, there are people that do that in the service business because you just want to keep refining your business. When the people at the bottom see that the people at the top and give bonuses to the people at the top. When people see that the people at the top are making money, the people at the bottom are losing it, it changes the culture of your business. But again, it depends on how much volume your business is doing.
Scary business to be in.
It can. Well, in a business that's high volume, you have to do that. Like, let's say you're a bank and you're working with 100,000 leads a year. You're not sitting there going, hey, Mike, how's your family? Bank of America doesn't care about Mike sitting at his desk. They got 100,000 leads coming in. They see that the bottom 10% aren't doing anything. They drop them. They see the top 10% are doing great. They bonus them. So you need to identify your business and where you're going to shine, what you can build, and what you're missing. And then you need to put things into test format. I usually recommend, though, that every business owner understand the aspects of his entire business. Like, even if you're not a good salesperson, you need to try it. Because how do you know what they're going through? So if you're building a business from scratch, you're not a guy with a ton of money and you can just throw, millions of dollars and fail and lose $1 million and be fine. You need to understand your metrics. You need to understand that maybe tomorrow you're going to be out of business. So hard work is what keeps you going. If you keep putting the grind in until you can't grind anymore, then you start being smart about it and you say, okay, where do I apply myself in my business? Where's my best role? Am I the best manager or am I a terrible manager? Am I a hothead that every time I talk to my people, I ruin it every single time? Or am I a motivator? Or should I just be the owner and I should hire a manager? Because that guy's a really good motivator. And I'll just tell him what I want and he'll get it done because I'm the idea guy. So you have to identify who you are. Are you the idea guy? Are you the worker? So if you don't know who you are, and you don't know what your business is, you're going to get very lost very fast. And if you're spending money, you're just going to lose it. Or you're going to get lucky. I don't like using the term lucky because I don't believe in luck. I believe luck happens when preparation meets opportunity. So if you prepare yourself properly, people are going to say, wow, you're so lucky you got that account. No, I prepared myself. And when the time was ready, I took it because I was there. I had everything ready. What does a salesperson do when they walk into a door? They don't have anything prepared? They know what they're going to say. They know what the guy is going to say back. So it's not, oh, you got so lucky. You didn't get lucky. You're prepared. So to recap, streams of revenue are very important. Understanding your role inside the business is very important. Understanding how your role is going to continue in the business is very important. And above all, your business, if it's a business, the goal is to make money. So you can't get emotional. Oh, Bob has been with me for 10 years. I'm not saying let him go. But you have to understand that if you have somebody doing something for you, and they're not doing it right, they might not be the person for that job. And that hurts them and it hurts you. I'm not saying don't be loyal. I'm very loyal. I'll take somebody in my company that I think is failing at something. Instead of firing them, I'll find something better that they can do where they can make just as much money doing something different. And that's where the family aspect of my company comes in. That's the crux of how I would start a business. First, I would identify how you're going to make money. I would immediately put the hard work in to generate as much as you can, whatever it is, whether it's knocking on doors or sending emails out or hiring a marketing company. But you need to hit the ground running, and then you need to analyze your metrics, figure out what works and what doesn't work. Whatever works, you duplicate. Whatever doesn't work, you toss. And then as you're growing the business, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Because when one of them fails, you're just going to be chasing that one stream, and you're just repairing. If you have multiple streams, when one fails, the other one is working. The leads are coming in, but I'm not getting any referral business.
Have you ever hired a marketing company that took you for a ride, didn't yield any results?
Yeah, several. Usually in a small amount. I almost lost my shirt twice, but I pulled out. I pulled out right before I signed the arrangement because something didn't fit right with the amount of money that I was spending to test the potential results. So I'd pulled out. But yeah, there are many times where I've gone to a lead source and my people have been dying for more leads and their referral businesses dried up. And I said, well, I got to buy some leads right now. And it just wasn't a good time. In those circumstances, that I had a conversation with the people working for me to hang tight, say, look, in 3 more months from now, it's going to be a much better time to buy these leads. So you hang tight for 3 months, and I'll spend twice as much in 3 months from now than I will now. So in the meantime, here's what you need to focus on, because it's not right now is not the lead type of the business. For example, winter time in real estate. It's not the best time to buy marketing because people don't shop in America in the winter, at least in New York. You don't shop for houses in the snow. Come March, April, and you have marketing, you want it because everybody's going online looking at houses, clicking on things, and that's where the leads come in. So yes, I have. I've bought leads in a 12-month period and realized that 3 months, 4 months out of that period, they're dead. And I have to make an analysis whether the other 8 months are going to float those 4 months, or is there a way I can buy only 6 months at a time, even if I'm paying more for the lead. I may be paying less overall. And then you need to make sure that the people, if it's not you, working those leads or working that angle, that account, are handling it right. So again, there are multiple aspects to the business. Who's handling it? Are they the right person? Do I have multiple streams? Right? And am I putting the hard work in? This is building a business. So yeah, of course I've made mistakes, but you got to learn from those mistakes. It's always an evaluation, and you will lose, because if you're not losing, then you're not making anything better. You have to recognize when there's something better out there. And if something's working and it's not losing really much, then that's a stream. Then you've locked in a stream. Now you just need to maintain that stream. It's working for you, maintain it. How do you know if it's working for you? You have to determine the time value you put into your stream and how much money you need to make. So everybody's different. But you really need to know how much money you need to make because it's a business. At the end of the day, the business needs to make money, right? So if you need, $100,000 a year to live and you have 5 streams of revenue, each stream needs to make you at least $20,000, right? That's the way it is. Now, one stream could make you 80 and the other 4 can make you 5 each. But what does that say for your streams? It says that these are weak and this one's strong. Now, maybe these can build to that, but that's the balance. Have I maxed out this avenue? When you're calling your own clients, when you've maxed it out, when you've made that last phone call and there's nobody else to call, right? You have to wait. You can't call them again tomorrow. Hey, I know I spoke to you yesterday, but are you interested again? Like at that point, it's not going to work. So you have to have other streams, and then you have to know how to apply your time differently. Sometimes you're going to put 50% of your time into this one. Sometimes you're going to put 10% of your time into that one. You go where the money is and where the growth is.
Do you ever try paid ads?
I've never done paid advertising. I want to, but I haven't done it yet.
What's stopping you?
In my business, it's not a on-the-spot transaction. Okay, there are emotional purchases, there are immediate purchases, and then there are long-term emotional and non-emotional purchases. My transaction, real estate, is a long-term emotional purchase. You don't go looking at houses and tomorrow you're living in the house. It is a process. So although I like advertising because it gets people to see who you are, people don't always shop the same day that they're looking. Sometimes you're browsing in my business. So I find that internet lead advertising works much better for me than print advertising. I get out to more people. The cost is minimal. If I was a bigger company and I already had full brand recognition, like Douglas Elliman, then I would probably have print advertising just to maintain my strength in the market.
What about paid ads in social media?
I think that's great.
Or Google ads?
They're not more expensive. Billboard advertising is based on location. So if I'm not selling Manhattan buildings, putting my name up on a billboard in Manhattan may make me look, people say, oh, that guy's cool. That's not going to do anything for my business because they don't see me anywhere else. But when you see Douglas Elliman, an ad for Douglas Elliman in Midtown Manhattan, and then you're calling because you're a rich guy and you want to buy a building in Manhattan, you're only calling the people that are selling the buildings. You're not calling Joe Schmo Real Estate Company because you saw his face. You're calling the guy that has that business. And when you're calling that guy, someone in there is taking that call and making sure it gets to their best producers. So in order to do billboard advertising, in New York at least, you need to have a base in place where that money spent is going to go somewhere. When you're doing online advertising, it's cycling very fast. And it's very cheap. If Chase Bank decided they wanted to advertise the mortgage business on Facebook, it would cost them nothing. they would get to every user. They'd call Google. They'd be like, we want to be one of your ads that shows up in email. They'd call Facebook. They said, we want to be one of your ads that shows up. And they'd be everywhere. And you would see them. Now, let me ask you a question. Would you go bank with Chase more because you see their billboards all of a sudden? Yeah, you would. But Chase is big, and they want to hold your money. They want to sell you a big product. It's very different. If they were transactional, you would need to justify the purchase of that print ad with the exact transactional money you're going to make off of it. So if I was going to do print advertising as a realtor, for example, I would do those advertisings where, you put the thing that separates the food for customers are online, that little bar that goes in the middle. Yeah. You can put your advertising on it because you're leaving the supermarket and you see that. It's like a business card, right? But I wouldn't spend a lot of money unless I had the base. And I wouldn't advertise in a supermarket if I wasn't in the town in that supermarket, if I didn't have listings in that town, if I wasn't doing business in that place. The thing about social media and online advertising is it's not necessarily location-based. So it can work, and it could also be a disaster, depending on what your service product is. If your service product is only located in a specific area, then you need to advertise as such where the people in that area are going to be able to use the business. If your business is online, then why would you do print ads in New York when you could do the whole country or the whole world for that matter? Does Amazon just advertise in New York? They don't need to. They the whole world. They don't need to.
I think print ads is really for specific when you're targeting people that are reading newspapers.
So it's location based. Like if you want to be the best company, the best restaurant in New York City, yeah, it's good to have your face up on the bridge every time a million people are going under that bridge every day and they see your advertisement. Well, they had that real estate company, Celino and Barnes. Remember that? Celino and Barnes, real estate attorneys, 117 or injury attorneys, whatever. And they had this jingle, but their face was everywhere where there were major accidents. They had these posters up where people were driving a lot.
Yeah, attorneys love billboard ads.
Because when you get into an accident, you look up at the place that has tons of accidents and you don't have a lawyer. It's right there, injury attorneys. It's right there, injury attorneys. It's right there. That's where it works. You're not looking for a house right now? Oh, look, it's a real estate company. It doesn't do anything for you. So when you talk about billboard versus online, you have to know it really depends on your business. For my business, at the size that I am and the locations that I'm in, billboard doesn't really pay.
Have you ever tried paid ads in social media?
I have. I've done Facebook advertising. And it works. I've affiliated partnered with me where you saw me on Google, multiple. Google used to have this platform. They had this really great thing. They actually did a background check on you. They ran my social and did a background check on me in order for me to be a part of the organization and make sure that I was legally representing my company. And then when I paid for the advertising, which was one of the ones that failed, that you asked me, did I ever pay? Yeah, I spent thousands of dollars and I got no business, zero business out of it. I got tons of leads, but it was not for people that were looking in my area. And that's when I realized it really has to be a little more targeted. It was close, but it wasn't exact. And they had this thing where if you were paying for advertising, when people searched anything real estate related, you showed up right there on the search bar. And lo and behold, I did it. I had 10 friends look it up, and it showed. It said, Tamir Mori, Cornerstone Real Estate. The minute you typed in real estate, it was up there, like my face. Almost like when you go on Zillow and it shows you the person, it's the same thing. And I was like, wow, that's amazing because, people that are searching on Google, who's not on Google? But I was reaching tons of people that were not in my neighborhood where I was selling real estate. And that's when I said to myself, I could do one of two things. I could stop, or I could think about how to get licensed in multiple states and continue to do this, and then the marketing would work.
You chose option A.
I actually chose option B, but then I moved, as you know, to another country, and I decided to put A on hold. I am very much for opening other locations, but I realized that the cost-benefit analysis didn't make sense at the time. My business is doing great. We're in a downward economy in the United States right now where we're not sure what's going on. I don't think I want to pump money into another branch just yet until real estate stimulates. So again, you have to know your business. You have to make your decisions accordingly. All of these things can go in every direction. There's going to be somebody listening to this that is going to be great for print ads. And there's going to be somebody listening to this that's going to be great for online advertising, for web advertising. But not everybody has the same business. So you have to really know what you're going to do. Plus, whenever you're doing advertising, this is also a very important note. You have to know before you do it who's getting the customers, right? You're advertising, but where are the calls going and who is taking care of these people?
Your intake system.
Right. And your intake system is super important. Different people handle different things. If you had a different number of contact for your business, it wouldn't work the same if somebody else was taking the calls. Maybe it worked better, maybe it worked worse, but it definitely would not be working the same. And you have to understand, are you the man for that job? Or is it there's somebody else in your company that's the man for that job?
Right now, I'm taking all the calls.
Right. So when I pay for any advertising, the first thing I think about is who's selling this? You know, because many times I look at something and I go, that's great, but I know that if I did it, it's great. But I don't know that any of these guys are going to be able to do it. So that's a very important question, because you may think it's great, but you're not thinking, is it great if it's not me handling it? If I put a new person that I just hired, totally an idiot in the business, doesn't understand anything, has no knowledge, is he going to be able to do it? Do I need a professional? That'll answer any business's question as to whether they need print advertising or web advertising. Is your business for this? And where's the leads going? Who's handling them? Are you handling every lead for your business? And if you are, how are you going to focus on other aspects of your business? And that's what I had to do. I had to separate myself from the business I was receiving and say, you know what, maybe I'll make a little less in the short term personally, because the business needs to grow. And I'm not going to grow the business without growing the streams of revenue. And the biggest stream of revenue in my business are my realtors. Now, I've told you, I've broken them down into substreams, but the same thing. You can have any online business. They might have one big account, and you're afraid to service anything but this account, because if you lose this account, your whole business goes under. You don't want to be in that position. You don't want to be in that position where you can't take another account because you're going to lose the bigger account. You have to be in a position where all accounts matter. What do they say? Customer's always right? That's mostly true. It's always right as far as the philosophy of how you should treat customers and how you're going to generate business. But when you're running your business, you don't put all your time into the customer that you're losing money on and no time into the customer that you're making money on. That would be silly. You know? You have to focus on where the money comes in. And you have to recognize that wherever the money's coming in, the person handling it can handle it. Because a lot of people, they have great ideas, and then the business comes in, and it all goes into the garbage. And it's very sad. I've seen it happen with vineyards that don't have people handling the barrel delivery quickly enough. When you're a small company, if you make a mistake, it's very okay to make mistakes when you're small, because nobody's seeing them. So if you're going to make mistakes, make them when you're small. You know, but when you're big and you make a mistake, you can lose tremendous market share.
New levels, new devils.
So, right. So I like that line. Like we were talking about the vineyard, right? You have an amazing vintner, right? He knows how to make unbelievable wine. You just hired him. You gave him the biggest salary ever. You have a 5-year contract with him. You have the greatest growers. They pick only the worst grapes off and only the best grapes off for the bottle. Amazing. But your barrels don't arrive in time. And all your wine sours. So that's a business. Every part counts. Yes, the vintner is going to bring you people. Yes, the growers are going to generate the most wine for you, so you have volume. And both those are very important. But if it gets in the barrel and it tastes like garbage, you're not selling any wine. Not only that, you're out of business the next day. So if your vintner is not known and your growers are slow, but you produce bottles and you're able to sell, well, you can always go back the next year and say, okay, I need to train better growers, or I need to get a few more people. Maybe I can get a famous vintner for next year's series of wine, right? And I don't do anything with wine. I'm just bringing it up because I find that in business, if you can bring up something that you don't do business with, I would love that one. But if you bring up something that you don't do business with, a business that you don't do business in, and you could apply the same rules, it works. Business is business in every business. They all have the same rules. It all works the same way, the way you grow it. I don't need to know your business to know how to grow it. I need to know your business to run it.
Buying and selling apples.
Any advertising, whatever you're doing, print, online, whether you have 5 streams of revenue, 1, 2, whether you're handling everything because you can't afford anybody else, or you're in your basement just handling your business, or you have a huge operation, you have to understand what you're doing. What is your business in business for? Where are you advertising? Why is that phone number there? I got a phone call the other day, came to my cell phone, and speaking to the guy, really nice guy, and he's like, all right, I'll call you in the future. And he wasn't even calling for me. He was calling for something else. And he goes, I'll call you to talk about this later. I goes, you don't have my number? He goes, I have your number. I called it. I go, that's not my number. I knew that the number advertised was for my company, my general company number. You know, for general inquiries, call this number. So I and a few other people that can receive the call, receive the call. Because my thing is, you know, don't let it go to voicemail. You know, take the call. At the end of the call, guy really loved me. I could have lost that call if I said, no problem, talk to you later. Because I might not have known that ad didn't have my phone number. Of course, it's my business. So instead of the voicemail picking up, after 3 rings, it forwards to my phone. And I pick it up. Again, repairing your business, right? I recognized there was a flaw in how the information was coming over, so I got to fix it. The guy called the right number. But now that the guy's doing something different, he needs another contact. So I gave him my cell. Oh, you said you're the broker. Yeah, I'm the broker. You can have my cell. If you need any questions, call me. Oh, that's really great. And you can help me see houses? Sure. Worst case, I give somebody on my team. We'll come take you out, but call me whenever you want. Let's figure out you first. Don't worry about me and making money and getting a house. Let's figure out you first. Maybe you don't want to do this later. Let's figure it out. Now the guy's really interested. I don't even want his business. I know that in that phone call, I don't need to sell him. He called me. He sold. He wants to know the guy on the other line is the real deal. So I am the real deal. I don't need to sell you anymore. If it works, it works. We'll do business together. If it doesn't work, I'll shake your hand and call me in the future if you need me.
I have to ask you this question because I'm a video guy. Have you ever tried using video in different areas in your marketing or processes?
So I have. Very light amounts. When I first started, I was very excited like anybody else young starting a business, and I made all these commercials for Cornerstone, you know, where this guy talks and he goes, do you have all these things for your business? Well, look no further. Cornerstone Real Estate. It was these very generic ads that I was able to get cheap and have, you know, actors dub it, and it was okay. It was more good for the fact that when I started the business, it gave it some flavor, something to hold on to. So I would send it out to people, and it was something to say, oh, they have an ad. But the truth be told, that's probably more in my head than in actual production. Truth be told, I didn't push it enough, and it didn't generate any actual business. It just generated a bunch of, oh, that's really cool that you guys have that. Oh, wow, you have an ad? Oh, that's really amazing. You must be doing a lot of business. That was it. So I realized in that moment when I was doing it that I didn't need to do that anymore. What I really needed was places that people were going to see me. That's when I needed to have something recorded. So when the organization for real estate did some kind of thing and they were going to show it in front of a bunch of people, or they needed a speaker, then I would show up to. Because now I'm speaking in front of 3,000 people that could be working for me. So no problem. Now I'm doing a video that's going to go out to 22,000 people that are in my field. And then they go, oh, that guy knows what he's talking about. And then they bump into somebody. They say, oh, that's Tamir. Oh, you know Tamir? Yeah, I haven't. I just saw him on this video. Oh, he lives right down the road from me. Really? You know?
Yeah.
So it can work. But again, you have to know where it's going. If you tell me, hey, Tamir, I'm going to build your real estate company. I'm going to do a video in Taiwan. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be shown to 4 million people in Taiwan are going to see your thing in prime time. How's that building Cornerstone Real Estate? It's not doing anything for me. I do business in New York. It's doing nothing for me. So you have to know your business, and you have to know what it is. So I think this is the best kind of advertising, you know, for a lot of businesses. But you have to have a
podcast.
Yeah, but you have to, because that's what the generation today connects to. They love video. They don't like to read. All my kids, they'll watch videos for hours, literally encyclopedia level content in one day. But if you give them a book, only one of my kids can read 20, 30 pages in a sitting. You know, everybody else, after 4 or 5 pages, they can't do it anymore. Today, same thing with videos. The kids are watching so many videos. Most kids today can't watch more than 2.5, 3 minutes of a video tops. They're not watching a 40-minute video. You know, it's like, I could have watched 10 videos by now. And that's people. So I love this platform. It creates a personal approach, you know, where like, I like that person. I want to watch more about them. It's very popular. It's the way things are. So right now, I think video is where the biggest platform is of information. Plus, it's easy to cross-platform video today. 20 years ago, you needed storage space. You needed servers. You needed equipment. Today, you can do everything on your cell phone. It's, you know, every kid could have a podcast. You know, it's unbelievable. Maybe not as professional as this, but it's available and accessible. So,
also, you can make one piece of content that goes on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube.
And just put it on all platforms.
Just put it all over here.
Right.
And that's what we do.
Right, and it works. Right, and it saves you a lot of time, right? So now you have 6 different streams of revenue. They may all need to be handled differently. Maybe on Instagram you're not putting a 50-minute thing, you're putting the picture in the beginning of the video. And then on YouTube you're putting the full thing. And on YouTube Shorts you're showing a clip. Right?
No, we actually we'll take the same
YouTube
piece
Shorts
of content. Yeah. We'll take the same piece of content, a 20-second video, vertical, and literally just put it on in one click. Put it on LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and also on WhatsApp status.
And there you go.
Everywhere.
And it's beautiful and it works.
Yeah. It's a few clicks, but
yeah. So it's
the same thing. It's the same little piece of content.
Right. So there's fluff and there's flavor, right? What they call the sizzle of the steak. They used to say that back in the day. You're going to sell the sizzle or you're going to sell the steak. The steak is the meat and potatoes of what's going on. It's the actual product, right? And the sizzle is all it's so great. They'll do this for you. So there's a lot of sizzle, in today's world, like, YouTube Shorts and this and that and this business guy and that guy that goes on a podcast. And if you operate within the sizzle in small fragments, you can do really good. At the end, though, every business needs to know what their stake is. If you don't know your stake, you're going to just be doing stuff, generating no money, and being very popular doing nothing.